Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
Just got a call from Kate Grenival that said, from the launching pad, said it was now 2:30, so I will call our meeting to order. Second meeting of Nash County Board of Commissioners, well, I'll ask Ms. Wells to do the invocation for us.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our Father, we come together today, and this is the day that you have made. It is also the day that we come together to discuss the business of Nash County. God, we know that we come from different areas, but God, we know that we all have one thing in common, that we want what's best for our county. So be with each one of us today as we go through this meeting. Bless each one that's in this room, Lord, and give us a safe trip home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Wells. I had an email, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago from a Rick Lanier, with a request that he'd like to appear before our board. I'd asked Vice Chair Outlaw if he would get back in touch with him and set this up. I think some of the rest of the commissioners maybe got the email from him. I'm not sure if he did or all of us did. I'm really not sure, but Wayne got in touch with him and set this up, and at this time I'll just turn it over to Vice Chair Outlaw to do the introduction and explain what we're doing here this time.
Thank you. I'm gonna just come up here and do this. I appreciate the contact from Mr. Lanier regarding this program. I asked him to provide me with some information regarding the program. He's been very gracious in doing that. I want to tell you a little bit about where he's from and what he's done with this particular program. Then I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's going to make a few comments. It's not our intent to make any decisions today. We're listening to the presentation, and again, we appreciate you being here, and at some point we will discuss it further and determine what course of action to take. That at least is my understanding, Mr. Chairman, unless you otherwise feel we need to do something. Since January 2015, I want you to listen carefully to these facts. Over 85 municipalities have voted yes to display "In God We Trust" in and on their government buildings. So far, over 250 displays have been installed in 53 North Carolina counties and 39 town halls. In addition to providing these permanent displays on public buildings, 38 North Carolina Sheriff Departments, 17 police departments, and 22 fire department fleets have installed over 2,700 "In God We Trust" reflective decals on their vehicles. All of this is a result of the efforts by the U.S. Motto Action Committee, which, after receiving approval by the government bodies, pays for all the cost of these displays. It all began on November 26, 2002, when, with a desire to promote patriotism, Mr. Rick Lanier, who is with us today with his wife Pat, led the Davidson County Board of Commissioners to publicly display "In God We Trust" on the exterior of the Davidson County Governmental Center, with the display being completed on December 29, 2002. On December 30th, 2002, Rick co-founded the U.S. Motto Action Committee. On June the 24th, 2003, two ACLU-funded attorneys filed a federal lawsuit against Davidson County, citing that the motto violated the separation of church and state. The Davidson County Board of Commissioners unanimously, with the support of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, challenged this lawsuit. In May 2004, a U.S. District Court judge dismissed the lawsuit, citing no church-state conflict. In May 2005, the U.S. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the District Court judge's opinion. Then in finality, in November 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear the case, making the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling case law. And I've got that case law noted here. By acts of the U.S. Congress, The U.S. motto began appearing on coins in 1864 and paper currency in 1955. The slogan is also inscribed over the south entrance to the U.S. Senate chamber, as well as above the Speaker's seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. In 1956, during the Dwight Eisenhower administration, the U.S. Congress adopted "In God We Trust" as the official motto of the United States of America. For the last 3 years, Rick has tirelessly contributed many hours of his time promoting the display of the motto in and on governmental buildings, vehicles, etc. He does this with a deeply held conviction that our nation's identity and heritage are worth the effort. Our nation's identity and heritage are worth the effort. Many county and city leaders have shared this same conviction, really as I do. I'm not ashamed to say that, resulting in the organization's overwhelming success. And Rick, I want to welcome you again to Nash County, and I'm going to turn the podium over to you now. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Commissioner Outlaw. Well, Commissioner Outlaw, I got to say this. Commissioners have always been accused of being outlaws. But not as much as attorneys. So if you're an attorney here today, I'm gonna throw it back on you. Oh, my. Honorable elected officials, I take this great pleasure, and I take a lot of pleasure in doing this. As I shared with Commissioner Outlaw and the chairman out in vestibule earlier, I enjoyed serving as Davidson County Commissioner, but I enjoy this immensely. This is an invitation to join the growing list of cities and counties that are voting yes to proudly and prominently display our national motto, "In God We Trust," in and on their governmental buildings and law enforcement vehicles. My name is Rick Lanier, and I'm co-founder and vice chairman of the U.S. Motto Action Committee. I served as Davidson County Commissioner from 98 to 02, and in 02, I led my Board of Commissioners to vote yes to display "In God We Trust" on the exterior of our governmental centers. Soon after that, several other surrounding counties joined us in doing the same. So therefore, we formed the U.S. Motto Action Committee for the sole purpose to promote patriotism by encouraging elected officials to vote yes to display "In God We Trust" in and on their governmental buildings. Displaying the motto gives ceremonial honor to public occasions, and it expresses confidence in our society. These words have been used on our U.S. currency since 1864. This inspiring slogan is engraved above the entrance to the U.S. Senate chamber, as well as above the Speaker's seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch the President's address back last month, the State of the Union, and he pointed out, and they pointed upwards to "In God We Trust," and I like that. On July the 30th, 1956, during the Dwight D. Eisenhower administration, the U.S. Congress adopted "In God We Trust" as the official national motto of the United States of America. Thus, displaying our motto is a legal right protected by our First Amendment. On November the 1st, 2011, the U.S. House of Representatives voted overwhelmingly 396 to 9 to reaffirm "In God We Trust" as our nation's motto. Congressman Randy Forbes of Virginia sponsored the resolution in part because some have mistakenly stated that "E pluribus unum" is our national motto. Most importantly, The resolution specifically encourages the placement of the motto in and on all government buildings, from courtrooms to school classrooms. A recent survey shows that 87% of all Americans still support the display of our national motto. Rightly so. This is our nation's identity. It is the very basis for our form of government. In times of both war and peace, these words have been a profound source of strength and guidance to many generations of Americans. And I'm not going to take the time to read this, but I pulled up this morning some information since it's President's Day. Pull up George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Read some of the comments that George Washington stated in his farewell address and the second inaugural address by President Lincoln. It will be very clear how this nation was founded and the purpose for which we develop and go forward in our daily lives and our laws and our governing bodies. As a grassroots patriotic movement, the U.S. Motto Action Committee stands on solid legal ground. Since Davidson County, North Carolina, paved the way, not one legal challenge has been raised against any city or county that has voted yes. And I want to take the time to remind you, this is not just an effort here in North Carolina. If you pull up In God We Trust America, Mrs. Jackie Sullivan, I just texted her and she texted me back from California this morning. Over 110 municipalities have voted in the state of California. Yes. So we're lagging a little bit behind California here in North Carolina, which is called the Bible Belt. This effort is totally legal. There's nothing to challenge. 100% of the cost comes from private donations, and in most cases from your local citizens. How often do you get things offered to you free of charge as county commissioners at zero cost to you? County managers like that. All across our country, elected officials are quickly embracing the opportunity to display our great motto. Displaying the motto will serve as a perpetual reminder of our great heritage, our godly heritage. Elected officials like you are showing a commitment to these values that our country was founded upon, folks. Thank you in advance for voting yes, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Board members, any questions of Mr. Lanier while we have him here today whatsoever? Fred, you got to have a question, sir.
Not a question, just a comment. I certainly hope that we don't make it political, that we do it. If we do it, we do it because this is something that we believe in.
Other questions or thoughts from board members?
I don't want to disagree with anyone, but I don't see anything political about this. This is about our heritage, our identity. I think at least that's where my focus is. I don't
But
know
some people will try to do it.
Some
Make it political.
people are gonna try to
Do
do
it.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
You're never gonna 100% please all the people.
Other thoughts, board members, or questions? We thank you for being here, sir.
I want to
Sure.
finalize with one comment I didn't further elaborate on. Through the efforts of In God We Trust America and other groups like them, over 700 entities, counties, and cities have voted to display. And one of them, you all remember Bubba on Heat of the Night? He was mayor of Fresno, California, and voted to put it on there before he left office. With y'all's permission, I'm gonna head back to Lexington, North Carolina.
We thank you, sir, and we will,
Barbecue town.
we
I'll
will
be
be
sure to
in
eat
touch
some
with.
barbecue here before you go.
Y'all got that vinegar there. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Wayne, I'll give you just a second.
With the board's permission, when Wayne returns, I would like to make a brief comment and leave. I got a lot of things I got going on.
Is it on this
It's on
subject
the
matter here?
same
Okay,
subject, yeah.
that'll be fine. So it will be.
Wayne, I asked for a couple of minutes so I can leave.
You go ahead, sir.
I do want to comment on this, so. I think most of you know me, I live here.
Yes, sir.
In fact, I put in God We Trust posters all over this place. Lots of places are displaying this, and it clearly states this national motto of the United States. In that enacted by Congress July 1st, 1956, and he covered that. I'll just tell you this. If you do not vote 100% in favor of it, I'll be disappointed.
Well, why don't you give us your name for the record
Okay.
anyway?
James
and address.
Irvin. James Irvin, I'm a state chaplain for the American Legion.
Thank you,
And I
Judge.
do live here. And I thank you so much for what all of you do. Take leave.
Thank you, James Irvin.
Thank you, Wayne.
I thought about a little bit prior to coming here today exactly how to handle this, and what I would suggest or like to do, if it's okay with the board members, I'd like to get a consensus of how the board feels, and then if we want to consider this, what I would think would be proper, and I'll take any comments from board members, for me to ask the manager to form a committee similar to what we did with the veteran signs and come back with a recommendation to this board, if we choose to do it today, of where to put them, how many to put them. There's been several suggestions, but I just really would like to get a recommendation from the staff first, if we move forward with it. Is that a way that y'all would feel comfortable proceeding with it? Fred, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Let's
First thing I
bring a
need
recommendation.
to know then is how you feel about it, and I'll just ask for a consensus of the board members, with a show of hands, if you want to move forward with looking into this, if we could at this time. It seemed like all of us,
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say that
sure.
the condition of our country and all our citizens, what we're going through now, I think we need to stick it everywhere we can to keep reminding us all. It's not about us. That's right. It's about the maker and creator of all things. And so if we don't do it, we're gonna get an account of it.
Very well said, Ms. Richardson. Maybe you need to be on the committee that the manager's going to form. Any other comments from
I think we just need to
board
decide
members?
which buildings, are we talking about all the buildings, are we talking about this building, or we need to come up with,
Yeah.
what they talking about, they're all government buildings, I
Right.
think that's when you'd be drawing a line. I can see it on this building with no problem whatsoever, but I have to think, if we're gonna have to put it on all the buildings, we need to think about it.
Well, that's why I feel like we need to give staff some time to research
That's
it,
what I mean, we need to say where we wanna
and
put it.
let them come back with a recommendation.
Yeah.
Other comments?
The information that I read, that was that, we're talking about all government buildings. But,
I don't think,
I would think we
Wouldn't-
need to just
that it was,
discuss that.
yeah, that is the request. And what I would feel comfortable doing, if you're all okay with it, is just let Z form a committee to study that and then come back with us with a recommendation. And I would invite him, of course, to speak to individual commissioners about how they feel about it and gather that information. Is that proper protocol with you, Mr. Lance? Okay, all right. Any other comments? Well, I would at this time ask you to form that committee and, get back with us,
The 12th will be fine. The next meeting.
The next meeting, okay. That's a
Unless you want it next week where.
No,
Okay,
I
yeah.
was thinking that was too short, but,
No, we can do it on the 12th.
if you can do it on the 12th, that'll be fine. All right, we would expect to hear back from him on the 12th. The board has decided to move forward, after we get a recommendation. And of course, what we would do then is get a recommendation from the committee, and, we can take action on it that day, or we can take the recommendation and ask them to look at it a different way, whatever the board so chooses to do. All right, with that said, I'll move on to, item number 4. Mr. Outlaw, were you gonna introduce Ann on this, or how we doing that?
I was not planning to do that,
Okay,
but I'd certainly be honored to introduce our register of deeds.
all right, I'll turn that over to you then, sir.
Miss Ann Melvin, where is she?
You hope she's here.
Honored to have you here as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say we thank you for being here, and I'm gonna be honest, the reason we chose to ask Ann to be here today is, of course, we all followed, recently what developed in our capital cities, county, and the register of deeds there, and, basically, we want Ms. Melvin to let us, assure us and let us know what she does in her office to prevent that from ever happening in Nash County. We all know it wouldn't be, but for the benefit of the public, as long as Ann Melvin is there, but as for benefit of the public, I think that's what prompted us having her as the in-house presentation for today's meeting, and certainly we'll turn it over to you.
Well,
Good to have you here.
I came kind of prepared to just kind of explain what we do in the Register of Deeds, but I certainly will hit on that as well. But first of all, I do assure you that we are good in the Register of Deeds.
We behave at our register.
We behave. So I do say good afternoon to everyone, to the commissioners and the staff and the guests, and I thank you for your interest in the Register of Deeds office today and giving me a few minutes to explain some things that we do that maybe you're not aware of. Just a little history. The Register of Deeds office goes back to 1663 when England started making land grants to settlers here. So the office has a long history. Nash County has records back to 1777, and that's when we broke off from Edgecombe County. But today, the nature of...
Prior to then, it was one county.
It was.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was one county,
And what was that date?
1777.
Excuse me for interrupting.
The nature of the office today is to maintain records for the citizens for some of the most important events that happen in their life, like getting married, having a child, buying a house. All those things are recorded in the Register of Deeds office. The way that we keep these records is governed by general statutes through North Carolina, so we do have guidelines that we have to go by that tells us how we do what we do. And it's very important to index things correctly because we want it to be able to be searchable when anybody wants to come in and find that record. There are 2 areas in the Register of Deeds office. We have the vital records side and we have the real estate side. I'll speak a little bit about the vital records side first. That's mainly the births, the deaths, the marriages, and the military discharges that we keep in that area. The birth and death records are from 1913. That's when the state started keeping records. Although we do have some birth records that go back further than that. They're called delayed birth records, and they are records that are created from documents like Bibles and affidavits of siblings and things like that. The marriage records go back to 1862, and the military discharges go back to the early 1900s. We issue certified copies of these documents. That fee is $10, and we also have a wallet size for the marriage and the births that are 12. The military discharges, there is no fee for that. They are free of charge. All the records in the Register of Deeds office are public record except for the military discharges. After 9/11, there was legislation put in place that kept those from being public record to protect the veterans. So we do keep those in a separate place. As far as the other vital records, they are public record, but only certain family members can come in and get certified copies of that. And we are charged with verifying that relationship before we can issue that certified copy. We also do corrections and amendments to births and deaths and marriages, and we have to send those to Raleigh for their final approval because all of our records have to match Raleigh's records. We also issue marriage license, and we are charged with reviewing the documentation that's provided to make sure that people are eligible to receive that marriage license. So we review a lot of documentation for that. One of the questions Chairman asked was, I think maybe here is where some of that came about in another county with some discrepancies, was with the cash that came in. And we do verify, we have a verification system of each number of marriage license that does come into the office that is issued and accountable for the money that's associated with that license. In 2017, we recorded 1,098 births, 1,072 deaths, and we issued 536 marriage licenses. And we issued a total of 11,890 certified copies. So we keep busy. They can obtain these records by coming in person, by mail, or we now have a vendor online that they can request online and pay with a credit card. In November of 2016, we linked with the State Vital Records Office, and we can now issue certified birth certificates to individuals that were born in another county other than just Nash County. They have to be in North Carolina, but they could be born in a different county and born after 1972, and we can assist them with that. Moving on to the real estate records, they do go back to 1777, and most of these reflect a change in real property. We file these records, but we can't interpret these records. All we do is take them in. We will assist the public in trying to find records that they're looking for, but we can't tell them what it means. Some of the most common documents filed are deeds, deeds of trust, satisfactions, restriction covenants, timber deeds, easements, power of attorneys, assumed names, plats, and we also administer notary oaths. Just a little note on the assumed name. A big change came about with those in this past December, where we're going to be submitting those also to the Secretary of State's office. So we're going to be eventually coming up with an electronic way to submit that to them as well. So there will also be a statewide database as well as just the countywide. Documents can be filed by bringing them in person, by mail, or by electronic filing. We are charged with reviewing these documents per general statute and the collection of the fees to record. Most paper documents are returned and mailed back the following business day, but the electronic filing, we do not receive a paper copy at all. It is submitted through our vendor, and just as soon as I approve it, the image is there and it's also searchable. So there's no paper involved with that at all. Documents are indexed into a database for reference, and we have public computers that people can come in, or either we have a website that people can look at their home or businesses and look at all the real estate records. Once a document is recorded, it's available. We go through several steps of proofing those documents after we receive it to make sure we have it accurately indexed. Real estate records can be searched on the website, like I said, back to 1777. And just last week, we finished the importing of all the remaining real estate record images. The indexing was there, but not all of the images were there, so we now have all of the real estate records available on the website, in the office, or at home that people can print out and look at. So I think that's a great feat that we've accomplished there. A little bit about the revenue we collect. There's a 1.5% of that goes into a pension fund for the Register of Deeds. $6.20 of each document goes to the state treasurer. 10% of the remaining goes into an automation fund for the local Register of Deeds, each county. And that's the funds that we use to get those back images put on, that the commissioners greatly helped me out with allowing me to do that. The excise of deeds is divided in half. The excise is the tax that's paid on the selling price of deeds, and half of that goes to the state, half of it stays with the county. Out of the marriage license fee of $60, $5 of that goes to a children's trust fund. That's for child abuse prevention programs. And $30 goes to a domestic violence center fund, and that's for grants to domestic violence centers and the NC Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Some of the main improvements we've made in the last few years are the electronically submitting of the notary oaths. We send them directly to the Secretary of State. The online request for the vital records, the ability to issue other county birth certificates. Each employee now has their own scanner, so when death certificates come in, they can scan them in right then and issue them right back to the funeral home that's usually waiting to get some. We are now taking credit card payments, and that has been overwhelmingly popular with the customers. The e-recording of the documents, probably about half of what we take in for the documents is received through e-recording. And each employee maintains his own money and balances according to the reports at the end of the day. And then it's all brought together to make the bank deposit. So we do have checks and balances there. We're currently working on some back indexing and scanning of the births, deaths, and the marriages. So we've got the real estate on, so now we're going to start working on the births. Last, I would like to comment on my staff. I'm very proud of each one of them. They do a great job. They are very thorough, and they will work great with the public. I am very proud of them, and you should consider them a great asset to Nash County. I invite you to visit and meet our staff and tour our office. I'd like to thank each one of the commissioners for your support. You've been very supportive of me. I appreciate that. Are there any questions or anything I could elaborate on?
Questions from board members? Comments? Mr. Lamb?
Just a couple things. The pre-1777 deeds would be in Edgecombe County?
They would.
Okay. And I would like the board to know that there's a question that the auditors ask every year, and that is, do you know of any deficiencies in your finances? And I'm sure others put it on there too, that given what happened in Wake County, we would want you to look at that, and I believe they did, and said that they were absolutely had good checks and balances, internal controls in place, and so we can rest assured that our Register of Deeds is operating properly. And the last thing I want you to know, and the public to know, that Ms. Melvin's office is self-sufficient, self-supporting. It brings in more money than it spends each year. So that's a good thing about her office that makes us all very happy. And one last question. Do you believe there will always be needs for that automation fund? Or
Yes.
There will always be. No, I mean, we can't take it anyway. We can't take it anyway. I'm just wondering.
It didn't take her long to answer.
You got that right.
Yeah, we can't
Well-
use that money anyway, but I just,
What am I trying to say? Software is always
That's true.
going to be changing
Say, I
and
think this
evolving.
board knows very well that it would be.
So we always want to have a little pot of money that's going to be available for that. In fact, I think they are looking at in the next couple of years an upgrade of that.
okay, good.
So
Good.
we want to make sure we're covered with that.
You're ahead of a lot of counties, so I would think.
Yes.
Doing automation.
I've tried
Yeah.
to make sure we were okay when we did something. Hopefully, we may do some mass back scanning with the births and the deaths, because there's a lot of those that are starting to be very crumbly, and we do need to preserve those. So, yes, I do have plans for it.
And finally, I want to say that I've been here 4+ years, and I can tell you that I've only had one complaint against her, and it wasn't a legitimate complaint. Her office runs very smooth, and I appreciate all you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Other questions, comments, Mr. Outlaw?
I would just mention, if you go into the Register of Deeds and, or you don't go, you just talk to people that have had business in that area, and you ask them how they were treated. They always say they were treated very respectfully, courteously, and Miss Melvin is too modest, because not only has she got a great staff, she is very engaged with the public and very involved in what's going on in that area. I know I personally went in there one day and requested some assistance on a birth certificate for my grandson, who was born in 2002. And through the miracles of technology, she went into the system and pulled up a nice birth certificate, and I said, "How much is that?" She said, $10. I gave her $10 cash, and I started to walk out. She said, "Wait a minute, I want to give you a receipt." So she's very much on top of what's going on there, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Belfield?
Is there any records that you keep in the office that are confidential other than military records?
No, everything in there is going to be public.
Everything else is on?
Yeah. Everything's public record. Now, we keep some, in the vault area, that we don't just let the public flip through, like the old death certificates, because they are getting crumbly. They can still get copies of them, they can still access it. We'll even bring the book out to them and let them look at it if they want to. We just don't let that, that day-to-day going through it, because they are in that fragile state.
Other questions, comments? When you do credit cards, do you charge the fee for the credit card, or do we absorb that fee?
The county is absorbing that fee.
Absorbing the fee.
Yes. They are only charged for what they're getting.
Okay. Can you go over to the tax office and talk to them? We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very
And
much.
I, like Mr. Outlaw and our manager, would say that everything I hear about your office since you've been there has been wonderful. We have had some challenges in some of the time since I've been a commissioner, but certainly not since you've been there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
I'm
very
sure
much.
the public greatly appreciates that.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, you do. All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Sure,
Y'all have a
thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for 2018 Community Development Block Grant Neighborhood Revitalization. And I'll turn it over to Ms. McGee and let her introduce our consultant on that.
Thank you. Nash County intends to submit an application for up to $750,000 of Community Development Block Grant Neighborhood Revitalization Funds. This grant would be used to complete low and moderate income owner-occupied housing improvements and supporting activities such as street and/or utility improvements. This program will not involuntarily displace or temporarily relocate any individuals, and we will make good faith efforts to involve historically underutilized businesses and Section 3 individuals and businesses as we execute the program. We advertised this public hearing where general information about the program will be shared, and we have also advertised a second public hearing for next week where specific project information will be shared. Mike Barnett of McDavid Associates will share some more details of the program with you prior to the public hearing.
Thank you, Patsy. She covered it very well. The one thing one thing I know y'all love to hear is that there is no county match with this program. This is a 100% grant program. There was a $10 million allocation taken from the state small cities program and allocated towards this neighborhood revitalization program. It is housing centric. It is housing centric for owner occupied low moderate income housing. So any housing activity, whether it be neighborhood, whether it be scattered, and then activities that support those housing activities are part of the program and eligible expenses. So this is, like she said, the first in a series of 2 public hearings, and it's the opportunity for the public to provide any comment they might have to us. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Prior to going into public hearing, any questions of board members, Mr. McGee or Mr. Barnett at this time? Seeing none.
Basically, for housing, people that own their own home and no renters.
That's correct.
All right, seeing no more questions, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bellfield, second by Ms. Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now in public hearing concerning this block grant. If there's any member from the public that wishes to speak for or against or has any concern or questions on this, we'd ask you to come forward at this time, state your name and address, and we'd be glad to try to get you an answer. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Moved by Mr. Outlaw. Second by Ms. Richardson. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. And we remember that we have a meeting that we're going to recess to until next Monday morning at 10 o'clock, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We thank y'all.
Thank you.
May I make one statement?
By all means.
Mike Barnett, I've known for many, many years, and I just want everybody to know his son is now an attorney with Mark Edwards and Fields and Cooper across the street, Milton Barnett. He has graduated from law school, and he's joined our community, so.
I always get to go. I see him more now than I did ever before.
Especially the last few years, I bet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is number 6. It's an ambulance remount bid award. We got 3 people on the program. Who's going to present this? I got Brian, Scott, and Donna. Scott, you're elected, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Wanted to update the board on our ambulance replacement process for this year that was approved in the budget. In that was the purchase and replacement of one of these Sprinter-style ambulances, which looks more like a van style. That has been completed. We were able to do an informal bid and get pricing on that less than the $90,000 cap. So we were able to make that purchase for that. And that unit is in service and out running calls today. So we appreciate that. And on the heels of that, we went to a full formal bid on the remaining 2 ambulances, which is a remount process. where the award will be granted, the company that wins the award will remove the box off of the chassis, refurbish the box, and place it back on a new chassis. That process is an opportunity we have to save some money and by also improving the status of those particular units. That full bid, we had 5 vendors bid on that, and the low bid come in at $159,487.62. And when combined with the purchase of the before-mentioned ambulance, that leaves us with an overall savings of over $21,000 from the total budgeted cost. So I compliment the work that was done with my staff and the work with the bidders and the vendors to do a great job coming underneath the anticipated cost of the project. So at this time, we'd like to recommend that Select Custom Apparatus be awarded the bid at that $159,487.62.
Any questions from board members at this time? Auckland is in Edgecombe County, the place on the left, that's when you go through.
It's just in Pitt County, just outside of
Just
Edgecombe.
in Pitt County, right, okay. And we don't have anyone in Nash County that does this.
C.W. Williams did come to the pre-bid meeting, but they withdrew, realizing that they could not be competitive because they don't do remounts
Gotcha.
as a typical service.
Good. All right.
How much is a new ambulance if we had bought 2 new ambulances?
The minimum right now anticipated cost would be about $180,000 for the truck because some new federal and state safety standards have just come into effect, which are all good things, but unfortunately those safety standards increase the cost on the trucks as well.
Thank you.
Is there any reason those real high bids, 193 and 183, that much more than the 2 that were real close together, only about a $434 difference in the.
I really can't say exactly. I know there was some variation in the chassis cost, as in they buy the chassis from Ford. There was thousands of dollars in difference in that, but the majority of that was in just what they're saying how much it would cost to refurbish the box, the part themselves.
Other questions, thoughts? Entertain a motion for approval at this time.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda is a reimbursement resolution for public safety radio project capital ordinance. Ms. Wood, you want to explain what we're doing here?
Yes, so in regard to the public safety radio project that we have going on, currently what I'd like to do is put in place a resolution if we decide to finance this project. What this does, it allows us to reimburse ourselves after the fact. So in order to meet the U.S. Treasury regulations, the attached resolution is presented for the board's approval, which is a statement of the official intent and identifies the nature of the expenditure by the project name. The reimbursement period is anticipated within fiscal year 2018. And it does not mean that we will finance the project, but it gives us, it puts us in a place so if we do, we can reimburse ourselves.
Any or all of the project.
Right. And, yeah, exactly. I'll be happy to read the resolution, or if the board's already taken a look at it. I am anticipating that the maximum principal amount of the debt, if we did incur debt on this project, would be $4 million.
Which is the total.
Which would be the
Potential
maximum for
cost,
the
right.
potential of cost of the total radio project.
So the resolution that we are asked to adopt today could be up to $4 million.
Could be up to $4 million.
And I think mainly, if I understood what you said, the reason we do this is we don't do it ahead of expending funds. We couldn't go back and reimburse ourselves, so we have to do it prior to spending anything.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Any questions of board members on this item?
Is this strictly for bonds?
Pardon me?
Bonds?
Not necessarily. It could, well, I'll
Any
let Ms. Wood
financing.
answer that. It would be any financing.
Any finance?
Any
Okay.
financing that we can do.
We could do with local banks or any kind of financing. It's just a resolution you can get ahead of expenditure of any money on the project. Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Outlaw,
Second.
second by Mr. Bellfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item number 8. It is a public safety radio project capital ordinance. Donna Wood and Brian Brantley. Did we not just do that, or is this something?
Well, the first part of that was the reimbursement resolution. That is
Gotcha.
just in case we decide to, once we move forward with the whole project, if we wanted to finance the project. What the capital project ordinance that I'm getting ready to
Establishing the
present
ordinance. Gotcha.
is to put in place a budget to start the initial process. So this capital project ordinance is submitted for the approval to initiate the public safety radio project. This initial process for the project will allow the county to improve the existing infrastructure by optimizing the paging equipment, increasing Viper capacity, and installing consulates in the 911 centers for the utilization of a Viper radio system. This initial capital project ordinance is for $1,335,000.
All right, questions on this item from board members? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Bellfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Outlaw. Now, we got any questions? I'm moving a little bit fast. Make sure you ask questions, board members, if you got anything.
I'll say something.
All right?
This is everything, I believe, except the radios themselves. We'll be coming back to you after we get prices from the vendors later this week. And also, we're hoping, other than radios, that this will be all there is additional cost. That could be around $2 million for over 400, 500? 421 radio. Over 500, yeah, with EMS. For the fire departments and EMS and emergency services, there is a chance that we'll need to fill in some gaps with additional tower capacity, but we're hoping beyond this, it will be approximately $2 million more that will come at a later meeting.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Took care of item number 8. This is a little bit confusing, but item number 9 is a budget amendment for public safety radio project. Ms. Wood?
Okay, so the revenue that is part of the capital project ordinance is a transfer from the general fund. So this budget amendment is to budget fund balance appropriated from the general fund of $1,335,000 going into the capital project ordinance.
This comes from the fund balance in the general fund to the capital project for this particular item.
Yes.
Okay, any questions on that item? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Combs. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second by Ms. Richardson. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Might be the quickest we've ever spent $4 million. Item number 10 is a public safety radio project standardization and compatibility. Brian Brantley and Scott Rogers. Scott, you stood up, so I guess you're presenting, sir.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you certainly for your continued support of this project. My piece of the project today is to address the infrastructure costs that you just approved in the budget ordinance. And that is basically 2 pieces of this project. One of those is the upgrade of our existing paging system to allow us to page fire and EMS and public safety departments. The second part is to upgrade of the state's Viper radio system, which we will be joining is the final outcome of this project. The upgrade to our paging system, we're asking your permission to allow us to do that with a sole source vendor that currently looks after our paging system now. They have a lot of technical knowledge of our system, as well as the ability to use a lot of the existing equipment to accomplish the mission of that project. And then the second part, of course, being the Viper piece, the state's voice interoperability for public safety program that we will be using. That is a proprietary system that was designed and built by Motorola, and the work that will need to be done by the state of North Carolina for us is only available to be done by Motorola. So with that said, what we're asking you for today is the authority to contract with Radio Communications Company for the pager upgrade and to contract with Motorola for the Viper upgrade going forward.
All right, any questions of Scott on this item? Scott, will we know prior to actually entering into contract with these people what that last piece of the puzzle will be cost-wise, or are we sure enough of our estimates that we can do this step knowing we're gonna be in our budget when we get prices on radios? I guess I'm asking, should we have all the costs identified and tied down prior to moving forward with this?
Not either of these two projects really have no bearing, if you will, on the radio piece. These two objects two projects have to be done really before the radios can be placed into service. And these will certainly be more time consuming than the radios themselves. So I feel very comfortable with these two projects moving forward simultaneously as we continue to research radios. I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure if I did.
Yeah, I guess I've just got a little bit of concern. Let's just say, be devil's advocate for a minute, we were to get the radio prices in and they were 3 times all the expectations we've been given, which I certainly don't think would happen. Would the things that we do here be needed regardless of what we done radio-wise moving forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's totally tied to pager system only?
And pager and the infrastructure of the Viper system.
Of the Viper system.
Yes, sir.
So we have started down that path when we do this, spending funds for the Viper system.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As long as the board feels comfortable doing it that way. Comment, Mr.
Yeah,
Lamb?
I just want the board to know that we had tried to get prices from the 3 potential vendors before today's meeting. We had a meeting Thursday or Friday, and it's going to be later this week, but we knew that the board wanted to move forward with this project. We felt like these were things that needed to be done, and so regardless of which of the 3 vendors we buy the radios from, so that's why we're just trying to get the fast start the project.
Well, I knew the board felt comfortable, I think, moving forward, not knowing whether we were gonna get the grant or not. And I honestly, myself, feel comfortable that the prices are gonna be close enough to what we think they're gonna be, that I don't really have a lot of concern, but I wanted to let the board know what we were doing to make sure you understood we are taking a step.
And
Mr. Collins, you
also,
wanna say
we're
something?
waiting on the price of the radios to see if we get the grant.
Yeah,
We can't-
I need to explain
Yeah,
that.
explain.
Yeah. We've applied for $1 million grant, which will go to the price of the radios for the fire departments, is what we're gonna recommend. Y'all can use that $1 million for this infrastructure or whatever, but I think the recommendation of everyone I've talked to is to apply that entire grant if we're successful towards the $2 million for the fire department's total cost. That will be 1st of April. We didn't want to go ahead and commit to anything until we hear from that grant. So I might have just said that we'll have something at the next meeting. It could be the 1st of April before we actually come to y'all with the prices for the radios.
I can tell you though, we will enjoy a significant benefit from both of these projects immediately, even before the new radios are here.
Particularly with pagers.
Yes, sir, with pagers and certainly with the sheriff already being on the VOC
Okay, I
system,
got you.
he will receive that benefit as well.
Any other questions or thought from commissioners?
Don't we have enough experience with these Viper radios to have a good feel that the cost is gonna be kinda like we suspect it's gonna be?
Wayne, I think so. I just felt like I want to make sure the board understood.
Todd, I know you've got a lot of experience with
Yeah.
Viper radios.
They're all three on state contract,
Yeah.
and what we're trying to do is see what they can do for us better than the state contract.
Yeah.
So we know the maximum, and the maximum,
I was kinda hoping to be a little under what we
yeah,
should.
that's what we're looking for.
Why a little? Okay, everybody good with where we are in? And it does ask for board approval. So I'd entertain a motion for approval of this request.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Wells, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries, sir.
Thank you. When I say thank you, I really do thank you. This is a big project, and
Well, we thank y'all.
the more we move, the better we'll be. So thank you very
I
much.
think we're just as anxious as a board to get it off on our plate as you are to get it off on yours, maybe equally amount anyway. I'm sure not anymore. And we greatly appreciate everybody that has worked on it. I know it's been a lot of time spent on it over the last year. Next item is committee reports. Mr. Outlaw, I'll turn that over to you, sir.
I would ask after we complete the committee reports, if possibly the chairman and Scott and maybe Scott and Brian could hang around for just a minute with Dan, and let's talk a little bit about radios. I got something I want to share with you, if you've got a minute.
I really need to be, we'll see how we run it, but I've got to be in Rocky Mountain at 4:30 for that MPO
We're
meeting.
gonna try to get this done so we
Okay.
can do that.
All right, and we do have a closed session we need to attend to.
Okay. All right, committee reports, District 1, Commissioner Richardson.
No report today, we meet tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. District 2, Commissioner Belfield.
JCPC board met last Thursday, and one thing in the report by the juvenile chief of court, counselor Mike Walton, was giving statistics on incidents in schools and what percentage of them have been adjudicated, in other words, what charges brought. 24% of incidents in Nash County public schools ended up in court, juvenile court. The state average is 44%, so we're way down compared to the average across the state, which I thought was significant, but 24% is still pretty high. And he did give the number of incidents that happened. I hate to, for some reason I didn't write it down, but it was up there somewhere around 900 incidents for the whole year, calendar year. The juvenile court counsel, the juvenile crime prevention council, we have 8 programs under that, which is funded by the state, because the county, I believe, put in 10%. And they are now applying for grant money to continue their programs in there. So that's what's happening there. Trillion representatives attending the meetings now, and they're telling what services they provide. And I got one the card from, and it's quite a bit. And one of them is mental health as it relates to our young people. And I'll just mention that one. But they seem to have a interest in really working with the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council and working with our youth, especially with mental illness. Farmers Market will meet Wednesday at noon. Tar River Transit will meet March the 8th. So that is my report. Other than we are, Commissioner Wells was first appointed to be on the committee to search the search committee for a new executive director, which will take place July 1. And
Commissioner Wells resigned from that commission.
yeah, you're right. She resigned, and now I'm the representative for Nash County on that committee. And we've had one calling conference, and now we're going to start advertising the position, and then we'll review the resumes hopefully in April and have a recommendation in May. And hope that whoever the whole board pick, that person will have some time, spend some time there with Greg, and so before they get started July 1. And that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. District 3, Commissioner Combs.
Agriculture Advisory Board has not met. Health and Human Services met last Thursday. From the Veteran Services offered, Tyler said that in January, he had 120 veterans visit his office. His office has assisted 694 veterans so far in submitting benefit claims. He talked about the signs, the veteran signs that have been placed here and in other county buildings. From Department of Social Services, Donna Boone gave a report. Nash County continues to meet the 95% processing requirement for the Food and Nutrition Services Program. Children's Services is scheduled to go live in NC Fast year in 2018. Some of these things you might find interesting, but there are currently 14 adults in Nash County that the Department of Social Service serves as guardian for. Both of the energy assistance programs are underway. Crisis intervention program has served 676 individuals, and the low-income energy assistance has served 1,687. Crisis intervention program has a $600 maximum, and the low-income energy assistance is a $400 program. The service members for Child Protective Services in 2017 numbers are now available. There was an average of 79 reports of abuse and neglect filed each month last year in Nash County. An in-house salary study was done, being completed by Human Resources is now complete. The study compared salaries for Nash County DSS positions to 7 other counties and found that Nash County salaries are lower than the salaries of other counties. Nash County has been invited to become a part of the Domestic Violence Justice Center. The center has applied for a grant that would fund one CPS worker. There's a child advocacy center interested in coming to Nash County. This center will provide coordination of services and investigation for children suspected of being abused. These services would be available 24 hours a day and will allow for quicker investigation and assessment of abuse cases. This process currently takes 4 to 6 weeks. Don acknowledged that Amy Pridgeon Hamlet and Shay O'Neill, who will be assuming the DSS director and deputy director positions respectively, effective March 1st upon her retirement. expenditures and revenue collections are on track for the fiscal year. Patricia Hamlin gave an influenza report. There's been 165 influenza-related deaths in North Carolina, but the good part was none in Nash County so far. And she gave a report on communicable disease, how many cases, those kind of things we got, and you'd be amazed sometime. In other business, the convenience center site over in Mr. Outlaw's district, the bank has accepted our offer, and he's hoping that that thing will be up and running mid to late summer. Mr. Hill reported that requested data has been sent to the broker and is preparing for RFP for home health care, but it has not been put out there yet. He also reported that would be Donna Boone's last board meeting. She was retiring March 1st. An invitation was extended to all board members, and y'all probably got your invitation, but the 27th at 3 o'clock here to recognize Donna for her years of service.
35 years of service.
Well, how many did I say?
You didn't say.
You just said years. You just said years.
I just said
Well,
that.
it didn't say right here where I was reading.
I'm sorry, sir.
And of course, they presented her with the resolution that we've already approved.
Right.
So, and they also presented her with a plaque from DSS that says the Nash County Human Services Board proudly presents this outstanding service award to Donna Boone in appreciation for her 35 years of dedicated service and commitment to Nash County Social Services and the citizens of Nash County, presented this 15th day of February 2018, at 1992 to 2018. And I'm sure they'll have that out here at the reception too. So that's all I got. Thank you.
A lot of information, Just a question about the convenience center. Are we gonna, at some point, I guess we'll have a meeting to start talking about what that's gonna look like?
I've actually asked Mike Tolson to design, working with the solid waste department. Mike's going to design a recommended layout for that convenience center.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Mr. Hill said if anybody's got any input on design,
I'd
you
like
need
be
to talk to
involved in
Mike.
that.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
He's welcoming that.
Involved.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Combs. District 4, Commissioner Barnes.
The Nash UNC Healthcare Board met on February 1st, and that was also the same day as the ribbon cutting for the Danny Talbot Cancer Center, and which many of you were there. I was out of town, so I participated via conference call at the board meeting. Chairman Davis was actually present at the board meeting. There was a presentation given on Coastal Plain Hospital. Concerns were raised about the operating losses there, the increased number of substance abuse patients, how to serve these patients without becoming a destination for them. Should we consider alternative models of care for Coastal Plain, and how to best meet our mission to the community. So there is going to be a stakeholder meeting March 2nd, and I know several of Nash County staff have been invited to attend. I'll be there, and our county manager, hopefully. So we'll let you know. And of course, any thoughts on Coastal Plain, I'd welcome to be able to represent this board. I'm concerned about, the future. I think it's an asset to our county to have this facility here. So I will be advocating for Coastal Plain.
One thing I learned that day, Lisa, was a little over half of the operating loss for the hospital came from that one facility or one unit. So we are bound to make some kind of adjustment somehow to try to get rid of that $4.5 million a year that is losing.
Exactly. I know there's been changes with some of the CMS rules and regulations, and also we take in about 14% from other counties, patients there. So, that impacts our bottom line.
Have it been operating independent of the Nash healthcare system in the past?
It did when it first opened, Fred.
Well,
But
I remember then, but I was,
it's been a long time.
I had read somewhere that the Nash healthcare system had had bought it. And I was just wondering if they were still operating independent of the Nash healthcare system.
No, I think
It falls under their
under-
budget numbers each
Yeah,
year, so they
their
must be
claims.
operating. Yeah.
Right, so, hopefully we'll come up with some options there, that meeting. And the Trillium Regional Board has not met. We actually are gonna meet on Thursday in Greenville with, all the regional boards are gonna meet with the big governing board at one meeting.
Great. Be the first meeting you've been to with them?
No, well, it'll be the first one with the governing board, yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, on District 5, I've got some information on Vet Tech program at North Nash Community College. If you recall, the college had planned to construct a new building. They have revisited this subject, and what they have decided to do now is they're going to make an addition to Building D. I don't know if you're familiar with where Building D is located, but it's at the back of the campus, across from the pond. This initial renovation to this building, which is this part here, is going to be about 6,400 square feet. Then they're going to have a phase 2 where they're going to add 6,000 more square feet. So they're going to end up with 12,400 square feet. And that cost is going to end up being around $1 million versus initially with the new building they had planned to spend about $3 million. So I've got some information here, an update on the building. I'm going to leave these drawings, layouts here, the renderings, and I've also got the NC Connect bond funds, a breakdown of that with the revision. I'm going to give everybody a copy of that as well. Take a look at it, and if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm sure I've got enough for the commissioners and maybe a few extras. RPO TAC, no report. Our next meeting is Wednesday, March 14th. High-speed internet. Give you an update on that. And this is per some information that Ms. McGee provided to me after their Thursday 2:15 meeting where they opened proposals to provide the high-speed internet service to the unserved and underserved areas of Nash County. Understand that a lot of the details of the proposal are proprietary and confidential, so it can't be shared in open session. With assistance from the State Broadband Infrastructure Office, the staff is thoroughly reviewing the proposals. State and county officials expect to meet later this week to discuss the details of the proposals, which vary in many ways, including technology coverage and cost. We anticipate that the next step after that would be interviewing some of the private providers in early March. Then a contract would need to be negotiated. We also could look for some grant funding possibilities. We plan to advertise for a public hearing and consider awarding a contract for public-private partnership, possibly in March. Ms. McGee, do you have anything, I'm sorry, in April, do you have anything to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay. Would anybody like,
Face look when you change, when you went from.
there's a copy of that information from, give each commissioner a copy of that from Ms. McGee, and there may be a couple of extras for Stacy and the county manager. Any questions on any of those items? Okay, that completes my report. District 6, Commissioner Wells.
Yeah, first thing about the workforce development, we met last week, and at our meeting last week, there was actually 2 companies, one from Northampton County and QVC and Edgecombe County, that were there thanking workforce board for the things they had done to help them get employees, and that had any employees they had hired through them, they had been more than pleased with them. I gave each one of you a thing that you may want to know what the Workforce Development Board really does and what it is, and so each one of you have one of these at your place, and it more or less answers the question what the board does, how they endure, and how they go about it. I would like to congratulate Commissioner Davis. He's being appointed to chair the consortium deals next year. I guess that's gonna be a congratulations, but he will represent us well, and he will represent them well, and he'll be honest and fair. So we all feel very glad that you're gonna do it.
Thank you, Ms. Wells.
I'll go right on into STEP. We had a meeting and where we went through, we had a consultant come in and we did a work day actually did out at Weston College. I gave each one of you the things that the committee came up with, and then I gave you the answers that the facilitator sent back to us and told us about the different things they can do. I can tell you that they're really working. Each one of the community colleges were all represented, and actually the school board was represented at the meeting, both school boards. They're working hard to make sure that children now, they've been working a lot to put the older children, now they realize they need to start working with the younger children. So they're kind of downsizing to get to the lower grades to make sure they start with the children down there and get them ready to go into the workforce instead of waiting until they get in the 6th and 7th grade when sometimes you've done lost them. So they really have become very involved and they're looking for more input from the community.
Okay.
We have a report from them there also.
Ms. Wells,
That's it.
thank you. District 7, Commissioner Davis, Chairman Davis.
Tourism Development Authority, had met right before our last meeting. I mentioned to you that, we were considering relocating traveling tourism to the, Mill Village. We did, sign that lease and got it signed by Capital Broadcasting. I expect work to start, I think you mentioned to me, it might have started already on that facility, and, that's at the main entrance to the Mill Village. We're across, Falls Road from that, in the house that is currently colored yellow, I believe.
Two-story.
Two-story house, so that's where travel tourism will be locating sometime in late third quarter of this year. Rocky Mountain MPO meets at 4:30 today. That's why I kinda needed to get over there. They were gracious enough to move the meeting times back to 4:30. Shell Building, we did, I think I mentioned this last time, had pre-construction meeting. Dan, I hadn't been down there. Is clearing going on?
Nope.
The weather has not allowed
Have they
it.
started something?
Have started cleared.
When they
Forgot
started?
you was sitting there.
You can't see it from the roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta go down there, ain't you?
You got to get back there.
You gotta get your truck there. But clearing is going on. Thank you, Blue Hart. So that's underway, thank goodness. And, Go Rock Improvements, we have not had a meeting. We're meeting in the morning at 10:30 on that. Still meeting, Stacy? Okay, all right.
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday, you're right, it is Wednesday. Today's Monday. That's my report, state law case, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Z, did you have some things you need to cover?
Yeah, just with the press here and everything, just wanted to announce a couple retreats. The department head retreat will be at Rose Hill. It's going to be, they've given us a great price. It's going to be the March 13th and 14th. The commissioners retreat will be at Southern Bank, the new Southern Bank building in downtown Rocky Mount, 230 Sunset Avenue, 3rd floor. We're really delighted to be able to have it there in their new facility and to be able to do it in downtown Rocky Mount at no cost to the county. We're looking forward to those two retreats. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Do we have times on our retreat?
Yeah, what date?
Oh, I'm sorry, March 28th and 29th.
So you're switching from Rose Hill for the commissioners to Southern Bank?
No,
The
no,
commissioners are gonna go downtown.
no,
Staff's going
the
to Rose
department
Hill.
heads are going to Rose Hill. And the commissioners are gonna meet at Southern Bank.
I don't think we were ever going to Rose Hill, Mr. Belfield.
He said no.
That I heard.
Well, that's what I wrote down. Maybe I'm not.
I think that was department
That
head.
was department heads.
Have we set the time for those dates, or you'll be getting back with us on that?
I have that. I think it's, hold on one second.
29th and 30th.
29th.
28th and 29th.
Yeah, 28, I have, let me see, all day, and then 29th, all day.
What time is that?
Every time we want to come, we're gonna stay the rest of the day.
If y'all would like to, we've got both days blocked off all day, so.
Just email it to
So we show up on.
Well,
the-
what time would y'all like to get started? 9
9
o'clock?
o'clock.
Both days?
Yeah,
9
probably
o'clock?
can't get one at 9 o'clock.
Okay. We'll do 9 o'clock both days. I'm not, on the second day,
You're right, Dan, the facility, that note to 9 o'clock, so we
Yeah.
do need to be in earlier than that.
yeah, first day we'll get out at 5, second day we probably get out early afternoon.
Any questions on those, well, the one retreat that we're concerned with? Okay, I'm now on item number 12. We have a very brief closed session that we need to do, to consult with the, attorney. Employed and retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege. Do not expect any action from the closed session for benefit of the press. And we'll take just a 5-minute break. We can hold it 5 minutes while they're clearing the room.